Buhl and Mike Groff in the 12th row, the 13th, Willie T. Ribbs and Buddy Lazier, and the final row, Hiro Matsushita and Marco Greco. And now they stream toward Jens Wintel's green flag, and here we go. As look at the two Penske cars jump around Nigel Mansell on the start, and we're off and running already. Fittipaldi at the front, followed by Paul Tracy, and now Bobby Rahal comes up to challenge Nigel Mansell as the fight for second place develops. At the same time, a bit of a test between Tracy and Fittipaldi for the lead. You're on board the nose of Bobby Rahal's car. On the official communication channels is that the team manager for number 5, Nigel Mansell, Jim McGee, wants a restart of this race. He's not happy with the way it started. Apparently, they have declined that request as Nigel Mansell continues his pursuit of the two Penske cars.
Well, Paul, the start, as we know, because it's so hard to pass here, is very important. Emerson has more experience with it. He kind of knows what the flagman will let go by and what he won't. But from where we sit, it looked like it was a good start.
Let's take a look at that start again, Bobby, and maybe we can get an idea of what Jim McGee might be concerned with.
Well, you can see Emerson's on the left, Mansell's on the right. And coming down, you see they're still fairly close. Mansell's up there for a little bit, fell back. Emerson had about a car length on him when he started. But look at Tracy going by the outside. Now, that's Mansell's fault, not the starter's fault.
Well, you think the argument might be, though, that it seemed that Fittipaldi came to the right and crowded him a little?
No, I don't think so. I think that was really a good start.
Let's go to the pits, Jack Arute.
Paul, that was a calculated risk on the part of Team Penske. They determined before the start of the race they were going to attempt that. In the drivers' meeting, Nigel Mansell was quite outspoken about restarts, asked for a ruling on it, and the quote from Wally Dallenbach was, "Gentlemen, that's a problem on ovals. We'll deal with it when we get to the next oval." But after the meeting, Nigel huddled with Wally Dallenbach and continued his plaintive decree about the fact that he doesn't understand these starts where drivers can pass even if you're on the pole.
Well, the interesting point, Jack, don't you think, is maybe how Nigel Mansell lost Indianapolis, was on a restart. So this is one part of IndyCar racing he's just not familiar enough yet with. And I think the exciting thing now is we've got potentially the fastest car on the track running in third. We're going to see some passing attempts.
Probably the greatest thing that was said that puts a period on all of it was Bobby Rahal sitting in the back of the drivers' meeting saying, "Welcome to IndyCar racing, Nigel."
Modern development.
And right in there is where they did it, Paul. You can see all those red cones on both sides. That's what we call the back straightaway. It's really not a straightaway, but it's a straightaway in that they don't have to back off the throttle through there.
14 turns on the track. Only 2 of them could be described as fast turns. The rest are second or low third gear turns. Very tight.
The view overhead from an aerial films helicopter, which helps us with our coverage here in Detroit, and gives you a marvelous view as the helicopter swoops down over the top of the cars as they run down these straightaways. Let's go back and take another view of this start, this time from this very same camera that is mounted on Bobby Rahal's car. Again, some concern in the Newman-Haas pits as to the nature of the start. Bobby Unser, that's Paul Tracy just ahead.
Yes, and you can see Stefan Johansson on the left. There they're taking off. You can see the starting line went way back from what we saw. The trick to it is look on the left there, the car that's in the middle of that picture. That's Paul Tracy. He still went by Nigel. Nigel just didn't get the start. It's never the rule that the cars have to be totally even when they go across the start and finish line. That's totally up to the starter himself. And that was a relatively close start. It's just the road races are so important.
Perhaps we can get a further update on the concerns of the Newman-Haas team. Again, let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, Jim McGee has now settled into the normal race routine, but I'll tell you, on that opening green flag, he was very angry, Paul, and there was a kart official or an IndyCar official right across the wall. He immediately summoned them. There was a lot of gesturing. They wanted a yellow flag and a restart. They didn't get it as they lobbied race control.
Well, Paul, that's really never happened. I know Jim is mad. He's a real racer. The guy is really feisty, but it's never happened that I can ever remember.
So Jim McGee watches his driver, who currently runs in third place. Mario Andretti is back in ninth. Those are the two Newman-Haas cars. And at the front of the field, the Penske team leads it, led by Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. Let's go to Jack Arute for an update on all of this first lap problem.
Paul, the kart officials are now talking to Rick Reineman and Chuck Spray. They have just informed him that because Emerson Fittipaldi jumped the start by more than a quarter of a length, they are going to bring Fittipaldi in for a stop-and-go penalty.
Well, maybe Nigel Mansell does understand the rules, Bobby.
Well, I certainly guessed that one wrong. In all my years of racing, I have never seen that happen before. There's Jim McGee.
Jim McGee's talking to Nigel Mansell on the radio and no doubt getting him up to speed.
Obviously telling him, and another precedent has been set. That's for certain sure.
All right, now what this means, of course, is that Paul Tracy will be leading the race. His pace has been more or less controlled by Emerson Fittipaldi up to this point. Tracy will be on his own, and he has been notorious for having trouble when leading the race, especially when coming up behind back markers.
Even more on this story. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, we indicated earlier that McGee was angry and he lobbied an IndyCar official. He wasn't satisfied after they had said, no, there'll be no penalty. He went and got Billy Kamphausen, who's one of the lead officials on pit road. Kamphausen had a hurried discussion. Then they came up with this possible decision. Let's go up pit road to Jack.
Well, Gary, the lobbying effort continues. Now the IndyCar official went to Roger Penske and to Rick Mears. Their retort to this potential stop-and-go penalty is there is no rule about how far you can jump a start before you're brought in. So this is not over yet, folks.
And Johansson was able to move during that exchange around Rahal, and now he begins to close on Nigel Mansell.
Well, I just want to say one more time on that start. The starts, as long as I've been racing, which is a long time, have always been up to the starter, the guy standing up there waving the flag. If he doesn't like the lineup of those cars, he's not supposed to throw the flag. So if they do pull him in today, they will have established a new precedent never done before in the history of IndyCar racing.
And from your tone, do I understand you're not happy with it?
I would be on Roger Penske's side in this particular case because it's never been done before.
So Emerson, let's continue this view of the start. This time we can take a look at it from Nigel Mansell's point of view. And here comes, as Fittipaldi is dropped into the pits off of the lead, he makes his stop and go. That gives the lead of the race over. There goes Fittipaldi out, and that of course gives the lead of the race over to Paul Tracy. So as we suggested, the officials did decide the black flag should be displayed to this driver, and he comes out just ahead of Montermini.
Boy, and is he mixing it up back there? Look at little Al getting up alongside.
Unser Jr. uses the opportunity to get past, so Unser Jr. comes forward and into 7th place, and now challenges on Fittipaldi.
Just so that people know, when Emmo came back out on the racetrack right there in the number 4 car, the turbocharger's already cooled off when he made a stop-and-go penalty, so he doesn't have it really lit, and heat is what makes the turbocharger work. So when he first hit the track, he was lacking in horsepower just a little bit.
He also had spun his wheels all the way down the pit lane, and he might have had an imbalance in the handling as a result of that.
Now that they've assessed the penalty, we'll look at this start again from Nigel Mansell's point of view. We're on lap 13. You're looking backwards from Nigel Mansell. That's Paul Tracy just behind him.
The point is, a precedent has been set. You men have been talking about that, and it's quite extraordinary what we've seen here. The penalizing of Emerson Fittipaldi.
Here it is from a camera looking straight on to the line. The argument, of course, would be that Emerson Fittipaldi crossed the line ahead of Nigel Mansell. But I've got the kart rule book right here. And the race car is saying as the starting signal is given, the timing of the race shall commence the instant the front wheels of the pole car reach the starting line. If the pole car does not reach the starting line, the timing of the race shall commence the instant the front wheels of the next race car. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, Billy Kamphausen, who makes many of these calls in conjunction with Wally Dallenbach, what was the official ruling on the stop and go?
Jack, the officials were concerned about the jump that possibly took place on the 4 car. They reviewed that with timing and scoring, and the stewards got together and made a decision, which was to bring the car in on a stop and go.
How does one answer what Rick Mears and Roger Penske were arguing, the fact that nothing was described in the drivers' meeting?
I cannot answer that. That's not my position to answer.
Paul?
So the complexion of the race changes, much like Indianapolis, with an official call. And Paul Tracy is now in front of the race ahead of Nigel Mansell. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Well, we're looking at the rule book at paragraph 6.6.3, which is the one that appears to address starts. We certainly can't find it. And that seems to be exactly the position that the Penske team is taking at this point, though they dutifully did answer the flag.
Paul, remember one thing, too, that when the starter throws the green flag, it makes no difference where the car is. That is the official start of the race. Now, it may not be timing and scoring, but let's watch it once. We're going to run it one more time. Now, watch the cars. Watch the flag on the right there. Now, he threw the flag there. There was less than 1 car length difference when he threw the flag. Forget about when it crosses the line. If the car on the right, for example, had quit, that race would have still officially been started. It would have just gone yellow right then.
Well, in the paragraph I read,
look at the green flag.
It's well out a good car length ahead, and the paragraph refers to the timing of the start of the race beginning at that line. It says nothing about the interval, nor does it mandate that the full car necessarily has to cross it first.
Roger Penske will be protesting this one for a long time, is my opinion.
So the race affected by a decision of the officials. We'll see, though, if Emerson Fittipaldi can fight his way back up. He currently rides in 6th place. He has been in a battle for several laps with this man, Unser Jr. And he got past Little Al, but Little Al is not having a whole lot of it. Robbie Gordon now sits just ahead of Fittipaldi, and Rahal just ahead of Gordon.
Fittipaldi is doing a good job containing what must be a high degree of anger in the cockpit. He's made no mistake since he came back out on the track. He didn't immediately try to scythe his way through the cars that got ahead of him. He's kept his head. He's very cool.
Let's go to the Penske pits once again. Further update. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, we were going to talk to Roger Penske about this whole situation. He said, no, please talk to Rick. Rick, your version, the team version about this stop and go and that alleged jump on the start.
Well, I just don't agree with it. I don't believe in it. I've never heard of that before. I've never heard it announced or anything else, and they ought to explain it. If there's a rule that you're going to be penalized for a car and a half ahead of the other car, if somebody got a nose on me, I'd just let off and get him penalized every time. That rule does not work, and it's something I've never heard of. It shouldn't be done.
Well, Paul, add to this, remember what I told you at the top of the show, that Nigel Mansell was huddled with Wally Dallenbach after the drivers' meeting, continuing to plead his case about these starts that he wasn't used to. Maybe it planted a seed in Wally's mind.
Boy, isn't that a racer's thinking, though? As Mears says, this was just moments ago. As 2 cars coming together here, and that is Brayton gets together with Scott Pruett. They touch one another. Both of them look like they leave none the worse for wear. Brayton and Pruett tapping. They were running at the time in about 16th and 17th position. Back on board with Bobby Rahal, 4th place.
Well, that camera is just one. That camera is the only camera.
Pruett's got some problems with it now as he begins to slow down and come into his pit area. And there's the 19 car, Robbie Buhl, with a problem.
Right into the tires. Look how nice those tires work when the guys get into them. There won't be an awful lot of damage with that car. Obviously, you can see the slide marks, the rubber marks going in. Had his front brakes locked up. Probably got into the turn too fast. Went right into the tires. Really helps a bunch.
Mark Smith in the pits of well. Robbie Buhl, of course, from nearby Grosse Pointe, just outside of Detroit here. Mark Smith, the rookie. They were hoping for so much from him. And he has climbed out of that car. His day is done. So just comes in for his stop. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Watch with the crew as Mario comes off the jacks. He lights up the tires and is out of here. His teammate Mansell ahead of him coming in. Made a slight wing change trying to alter the handling characteristics of the car, Paul.
At the moment, everyone except Scott Brayton has made a stop. And this was Mario's approach into the pits. Take a look at that swing that he took as he came in. And when he comes out of the pits, he also has to make a very sharp right turn to rejoin the race course.
The Newman-Haas team pitted at one end of the pits. The Penske team, their rivals, chief rivals, pitted at just the other end.
It's always interesting.
A look at the incident that put Griard into the wall. That's Bosell alongside, and he just got high on the entry to the corner, pushed out and straight into the barrier.
And it's slippery when he got out.
As it started to come off the wheel.
Fernandez back in 18th.
There's Cheever as he gets it back under control and is going to try to get it back into the pits. They put a white flag out in the corner. Now that means that there's a slower moving vehicle just ahead, so if you come around the corner, you won't be surprised by it.
Cheever had been running in 15th.
Now he
represents something of an aesthetic highlight, I think, for the year. The beautiful park here, designed by Frederick Law Olmsted. You see an exciting attempt by
Bobby gets it up on on the curve and gets it sideways, but he keeps it under control. He was making a move on Arie Luyendyk. That's an ongoing battle for 10th place.
He was braking when he went up on the curve, and that's what turned the car sideways so fast. He thought he had to brake because he was trying to pass Arie right there.
Beautifully controlled by the Italian driver, Teo Fabi, who a week from now, and there's more action here.
Stefan Johansson still worrying at the back of Mansell's car. Now, Bobby, is that blocking or not?
That's intentional blocking. That's when Wally Dallenbach, in my opinion, ought to come up and say, hey, now that is not the way we race over here.
I think it's gone from being a feint here and there to something that is going on lap after lap.
All the brakes light up with smoke as they chase Mansell into the corner. You're on board the nose of Bobby Rahal's car. Johansson, they got locked up in a fight. Rahal just went to the inside. But now Mansell using some very unusual lines to keep Johansson back. Johansson makes a move to the outside. And we've got a car into the barrier, and it is Emerson.
Boy, and is he buried into the tires hard on that one. The car's really deep into it.
Should be some concern for Fittipaldi. He is in the cockpit underneath that. There should be plenty of nice, solid, deformable structure around him to protect him. But remember, when Teo Fabi went very hard into a set of tires at the race at Denver, they were concerned for the weight of the tires. They're no doubt concerned about that here today. That's just steam coming off the coolers. They came up and doused it with water anyway.
Judging from how calm they are in the pits, chances are that Emerson has radioed in that he's okay. I think he's fine.
And he's moving there. So Fittipaldi appears to be all right. The demeanor of the crew was such that they apparently had heard from him. There's Fittipaldi as he came in. Boy, he got it just all the way loose and up into the barriers. And with this accident, the yellow goes out all the way around the course. Moving around Luyendyk.
He got wide, he got out into the marbles like I described a little while ago where the track is dirty, Paul. The rear end jumped right around because he was trying to go around Luyendyk, and they're just too dirty out there. Now, another thing that could be out there, look on the ground there. All those little spots that you see is rubber.
Let's go to Jackaroo. Paul Tracy's in.
Well, the misfortune of his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi has provided some good fortune for your leader, Paul Tracy. Jerry Brion and the rest of the crew, Roger Penske watching, and they've changed all 4 tires. He lights them up, but he's out very quickly.
So taking advantage of that full course yellow on the 39th lap. Now, then let's review yet another rule. Rule 6.7 of the IndyCar rules as it applies to parade and pace laps. Toward the end of the paragraph, no driver shall attempt to improve the position of any race car prior to crossing the starting line. The decision of the officials as to whether a driver improperly advanced positions prior to crossing the starting line at the start of a race is not, repeat, not subject to protest. Jackaroo?
Paul, we've got another problem now. Behind me is a radar detector and a readout. The speed limit this afternoon on pit road is 80 miles an hour. Wally Dallenbach told the teams, you go to 86, he calls it drop dead time. 93 miles an hour was the exit speed of your leader, Paul Tracy. When they go to green, he's going to be called in for a stop-and-go penalty.
Paul Tracy is currently second in the race. The leader of the race is Bobby Rahal, but he has not completed a second pit stop. It's been 21 laps since Bobby Rahal has been in the pits. He's in front of the field now. There's Paul Tracy. He'll have a stop and go. And for an update on Rahal, Johansson battles with Mansell. And Sullivan is just behind Johansson as Teo Fabi takes the tire barrier out. And Fabi now climbing out of that car. So will this bring out another full course yellow? Here's how Fabi got into trouble. He came down under Groff. Groff cut the front end of the car off. And Fabi just drove off and into the barrier.
Yeah, just took the wheel, the left front wheel, and just when he hit, just literally turned it to the left and right at the tie barrier. Just no time at all.
Continues green on the remainder of the race course with Bobby Rahal still in front. And we've got another car, and it looks like Cheever in trouble. Second problem for Cheever of the day. Like he did a quick spin, caught the left rear and the rear wing, Bobby.
Yeah, so what, we didn't see that happen right there, but what happens is that the
there it is, there's a big Johansson.
Johansson made a move, and he didn't. But look, he gets into Fabi. Johansson was trying to make a move on Mansell, moved to the inside, he got shut off, moved to the outside, and into Fabi's wrecked car.
Fabi's car was really blocking a lot of the racetrack right there. The guys don't see it till they get there, although there are plenty of yellow flags. There's plenty of warning for it.
There had to be plenty of yellows out in front of that, especially with the IndyCar safety vehicle out there. This group of corner workers in Detroit, of course, have dealt with that before. Remember the situation over on the streets?
Mansell is checking his car. Look at this. He slowed down. 2 cars shot right by him. So I think Mansell has been touched in this proceeding.
We take a look at what really is the end of the situation. Here comes the safety vehicle. Look to the right.
Mansell strikes nothing there. I don't know what the problem with his car could be. It's all involving Johansson and Fabi.
Back to a full course caution. Just mentioning the corner workers again, we were talking to one of the corner stations here. They were the same people that dealt with that situation on the streets around the Red Center several years ago when they just literally closed down a section of the race course in 1991. Now, here comes Eddie Cheever trying to get back into the pit. Second time today we've seen this, but this time we're talking more damage. We're back to a full course yellow, and Bobby Rahal's gamble may have paid off, but we may have one of these volunteer course marshals injured. Flat rear tire on Mansell's car. Let's go to Gary.
You look with the crew, Paul, from the back of the car. They've already changed a destroyed right rear tire. Now Nigel gets back underway. Remember the adversity he had in Australia. He came back and won. Now he's had some real adversity here at Belle Isle. Can he do it again?
Advantage of this yellow. That will give Paul Tracy the lead of the race. This is Eddie Cheever's situation again. A slick track, the back end comes loose, and Cheever's into the wall.
Now, did you see all the trash that came back on the racetrack when Eddie hit the wall, then came back on the track? So all that gray stuff underneath come out. That's what making it slippery. Plus, not particularly this tire that's blown on the thing, but all the little tire balls are laying out there.
And now Bobby is fifth. And there's Paul Tracy in and out for his stop-and-go penalty. And he roars back into the fight. He came into the pits in 11th place. He'll fall much further behind now.
But keep one thing in mind. It's not quite as bad as it looks because he's got the fuel to go to the end and supposedly the tires.
He wants to get going again.
Well, we can't see what happened to him right now, but he's sure upset about something, Paul. The main thing is, if they're pushing him so he lost it, you got to restart it.
Boy, was that lucky.
That's really lucky. These things don't always start with just a push like that.
That's not the car we're more accustomed to seeing Scott in. He brushed his primary car against the wall in practice. There you see, he got together with Groff. It just took him around. He wisely let it roll all the way off the course. Got a little push from the course marshal.
You can just see, it didn't really hurt the car, but you can just see how slippery the racetrack is, not from oil and water, but mainly from rubber, Paul, and probably the tires just being worked too hard today.
Once again, take a look. Brayton trying to dart inside of Groff. Groff kind of turned to the inside. The two of them bounced together.
That's what you call getting
no contact.
That's what you call getting the door shut on you, but it really wasn't anybody's fault. That's a real racing accident that couldn't be avoided.
And it did today. It's 18-hole coverage of the 93rd U.S. Open Championship right here on ABC Sports. But for the time being, it's the Indy cars. One car off the edge of the course, a waving yellow in that area. The battle continues for the lead.
I think Sullivan has had the feeling in the last...
Let's talk to team manager Ed Naffman for a brief moment, Paul. I asked him about, will you have to come in for the splash and go? Do you need a yellow? He says, I guarantee you we will not come in, but I can't guarantee you we'll make it to the finish line. They're sweating bullets down here.
So it was more praying and less mathematics when we saw Ed Naffman earlier.
Oh, here it comes. There's Little Al.
Little Al, but there's flags there. He can't do a pass in that area.
You know,
he had the pass, but unfortunately the truck was there. Looked to us pretty scary for a while. That's going to happen, but when it's yellow, when they get to the yellow flag, they are not allowed to pass. But as soon as they go by him, like right now, back to racing again.
You're sure of miles an hour. Nearly 4 miles an hour faster than the record, and now Jimmy Vasser, who was doing so well, is into the barrier, and another car in there. Very difficult to identify that one. That might be Willie T, but I don't want to take a guess at that. I guess I already did, didn't I?
Yes, you did, Paul, but it looks like it's Willie T, but it's really impossible to say with all those tires and the red wrapped around the car.
And the question is going to be, will they put out a full course yellow for this one? Vasser was running so well, up as high as 6th. And then into
that he has told him that Danny won't make it on fuel. So he knows that there's a chance of it. But little Al knows at least that there may be a weakness on fuel with Danny.
Couldn't pass right there because of the vehicle. That's also one of the rough sections of the race course. But now they're again in contact, and little Al's going to look. It looks like they touch for a second there. Little Al comes to the inside. They continue side by side. Unser Jr. has to drop behind as Danny Sullivan has the better line into the corner. But is little Al anxious to try? You bet he is.
Well, that's about as hard an attempt at a pass that I've ever seen in my life. Danny virtually never gave it up. It looked like after Al touched him that he would give it up, little Al get by, but no way.
Danny with 16 triple, what it would be resting. You might be seeing a heart rate here. Oh,
and Nigel Mansell in trouble. And the full course yellow comes out now. Nigel Mansell climbs out of the car. They go to make sure that he is okay and the car can get off the course. But they are going to a full course yellow
to probably do it.
This is on board with Nigel Mansell. Give us an idea of what happened. Traffic running ahead. Matter of fact, his own teammate just ahead. Whoa! Just pushes out to the wall.
Oh, he hit those marbles. You know, if you just could see what's on that track, it's really dirty. Now watch.
Maybe this will show you.
Yeah. See, Nigel just got out. Look where his track started back there, and you can see got into the marbles. The marbles meaning all those little rubber balls, plus all the dirt that's out there. And he gets into that. There's no adhesion to the tire, and right into the wall he went.
You're knocking down a cone. Back in Detroit, Rick Gallis literally screaming at one of the officials. Did you hear that?
Let's see if we can get a word with Rick. Rick, what did they tell you? The report that we're getting is that there was a cone that was knocked down, and now they're going to initiate a stop-and-go penalty on Al Unser Jr.
Well, Rick Gallis absolutely furious. Al Unser Jr., when they come back to green, will start in second behind Danny Sullivan. Robbie Gordon will sit in third, but now they're telling them they're going to bring little Al in for a stop-and-go penalty. And officiating, figuring into the outcome of the race, apparently for tapping a cone. Bobby?
Well, it was that time, the only one I can guess about that time when he was trying to pass Danny on what we call the back straightaway over there, and he knocked the cone down. We saw that right on television.
The argument there would be that the cone marks the edge of the track, I believe.
But Sam, there's no rule to stay on the racetrack.
No, I agree with you, but I mean, I'm just trying to get at what the reason for the penalty might be.
Also, he moved to the left of Danny and only had a car width there. Let's go to Gary.
Earlier.
The pace car comes off. Al Unser Jr. comes into the pits. The green flag comes out. We're back to racing. 73 laps are complete. They flash over the line, and Robbie Gordon now closes in on Danny Sullivan. That's Willie T. Ribbs just behind him. We suggested he was out of the race earlier. He is not. There's a stop-and-go penalty. Al Unser Jr. back into the fight. The pace car will have to clear off the edge of the course. It does as Al Unser Jr. comes back. But now Robbie Gordon all over the back of Danny Sullivan.
And Robbie Gordon doing this on less practice than most of the cars in the race, because on Friday he hit the wall. There was no spare, no section, so he had to sit the rest of the day out. They got a new nose. This morning they had engine troubles. You see Gordon going all out. This is a fresh engine that they put in during the lunch break today.
Robbie Gordon going to give it everything he has. Third is Raul Boisel. Danny Sullivan comes out to make the turn. Gordon comes out with him.
And I remember, Robbie Gordon has been loose. The rear end's been loose all day. The boy's good at running sideways. There's no question about it. Danny could be having boost problems. Robbie Gordon's got a loose rear end. Going to make a heck of a race for the last couple of laps.
But Bob, slow up a little bit. He looked at me like I was crazy.
Robbie Gordon can taste the possibility of victory just ahead, Jackaroo.
Well, Paul Page, A.J. Foyt, it's been a long time since he's smiled. He has broken out to a smile here.
Gordon slows down.
No, you know, he just blew the turn. He blew the exit to the turn. I think the car's okay.
I'm sorry, Jack. Go ahead. Maybe he's not smiling anymore.
Well, he still is, because what he radioed to Robbie is be sure to use your head.
Robbie in front now. The final lap of this race. Can he hold on to the finish? He is unchallenged at the moment. But remember, this is still a very slick course. The fuel question should have been answered. And Robbie Gordon spins it. He has a flat tire. Look at that. The whole left rear has shredded on the car now. Precarious position. Here comes the rest of the field through. Robbie Gordon is safely out of the way, but that's not a great move.
Gordon literally throwing away second place with whatever went wrong there. Dramatic, like Milwaukee last week, where he threw away third place with just a few laps to go.
A.J. Foyt almost biting his nails in the pits there, as now Danny Sullivan is unchallenged at the front of the race. And the checkered flag lies just ahead. The courts marshals are out trying to get Robbie Gordon out of the way. Andretti continues to hold off Rahal. Here is Danny Sullivan as he makes his move into the final section of the race course, and Danny Sullivan has taken the twin checkered flags here. Danny Sullivan is the winner on Belle Isle in the ITT Automotive Detroit Grand Prix. His first win of the '93 season. But there's still a lot to talk about. This was the problem with Robbie Gordon, is apparently he just had a tire shred on him. Bobby Rahal almost got him. Another view of the same thing.
With Mario Andretti right behind him, Gordon tries to take the turn with no left rear tire.
Of course, that wasn't the only situation here today. Here is Mike Groff as he chases Scott Goodyear for 10th and tries to punt him around the course. Now the first hit, and then Groff is still in trouble.
And the problem here is that the front wing is damaged, and right there it pulls off, jams under the left front wheel, and pulls Groff into the wall.
He's talking with his crew, going for the sunglasses. Junior, can you give us an idea of what this kind of bitter disappointment must be like and the emotion that you've experienced in the last couple of minutes?
Well, I don't know what to say. The only thing I can say is I got penalized for running over cones that somebody else put me into, trying to block me to pass down a straightaway. And so I need to talk to Wally Dallenbach and find out what kind of racing are we doing here. And that's it. So that's it.
All right, Junior, thank you very much.
Proud of my guys and all that kind of stuff, and real proud of the team because the team just won a race. So that's first time this year, and it's great, but we got to figure out what the officiating is going to be.
It'll be an interesting conversation, I'm sure. Paul?
You think little Al's angry? Look at the group that's gathered around Chief Steward Wally Dallenbach. Roger Penske, Rick Gallus, Stefan Johansson, Rick Mears, all talking about the way this race today was handled.